Hello, good evening. Welcome to a Lyceum evening, coming to you from the Paul Christian Spiritualist Church. And we're down on the south coast of the UK. On my own again tonight. We have got guests. We have got guests coming up. It's just these last couple of weeks, a bit tied up with Christmas and a couple of other things. So I've just not got round to it. So it's just me, cup of coffee, and cat. So isn't that wonderful? Absolutely no idea what to talk about tonight. Not the best start, is it? I was thinking, I went to Bitton Church last night, which is over in Southampton. And it was an evening of philosophy. And it was really interesting. The conversation did veer between philosophy and other matters within spiritualism, which was quite interesting. But it does bring me back to my all-time favourite, which is the philosophical part of a service and the philosophical part of what we do in spiritualism. You know, the philosophy, it's got that presence, it's got that power, and it's got that really wonderful ability to get the message to everybody in the church, which is wonderful. We have our evidential mediumship, obviously that captivates, that holds the person receiving the message, or it should do, which is one part of the service. But with the philosophy, it's the sharing of thoughts. Now, I like to sit and talk with my team upstairs, and we'll just sit and have a natter. And one of the conversations recently, I was talking about being relevant in today's world, because there's a big thing with me with spiritualism. Not being dramatic, not being overplaying it. I do think, you know, there is a bit of a wariness that we should have, that we become slightly irrelevant as spiritualists, because we don't engage too much with modern current affairs. You know, goodness knows the world has got so much going on in there. And by engaging, I don't mean the obvious by saying, you know, thoughts and prayers out, because that is always helpful, but actually engaging as spiritualists, because again, this point that keeps coming up in my mind is the ability through our mediumship to connect with a whole world of thought, a whole world of potential, a whole world which is active, if more active than our physical world. To share thoughts about, you know, what is going on. Is we're deeply unhappy. This country, the UK especially, we've just had probably one of the worst budgets ever, and I don't like to go political, but then I think at times, you know, we can't ignore it. Just a quick couple of comments there. Jenny Carney. Hi, Jenny. Nice of you to join us from Florida. I hope it's a lot warmer than it is here. It's 2 degrees here. So whatever you've got is going to be a lot better than that. I hope you find something near you in Miami. There's a gentleman you might want to get in touch with, a guy called Ron Cox. He's on Facebook. Just drop him a line and have a chat with him, because he lives in Florida, so he's going to have his finger on the pulse much better than I am. But I hope that helps, Jenny, and welcome to tonight. So yes, the fallout already from the budget is again a divisive tool, isn't it? It's dividing people. It's setting one class of person against another. Really, it's just awful. It's just awful. And this is one of the biggest challenges we face, bringing this back to our religion, philosophy, way of life, whatever you want to call spiritualism, is how can we remain effective and relevant in today's world without running the risk of just disappearing into banality or obscurity, which is a very real concern of mine at times comes in. One of the tools that we do have is the philosophical side of what we do. Most services will have a segment, especially the divine services, whenever they are run, and it's down to the medium and their team to deliver philosophy that really is relevant for today. A lot of it can be on like a self-help, a wellness type approach, looking after yourself, minding your thoughts, things like that, which, yeah, absolutely fine. They all contribute, because we can change one person at a time. Eventually, you do end up changing the world. But as I say, you know, I would like to see a little bit more just talking about the things that was on people's minds. We've got Christmas coming up, which for a lot of people is a very joyous time. Hello, Sam. A wonderful time. I remember Christmases. I used to work in London, and I was always off at Christmas because the bars and clubs that I worked in were mainly in the city area of London. So the city shuts down for Christmas. And I always remember getting the train home, and it would always be like either the day before or Christmas Eve. And it was just magical. It really was. And I'm not going back to childhood, obviously, running a bar. But it was just that magical time. There's that specialness about Christmas. But we've got to be mindful as well that that's not always the same for everybody. You know, there's a lot of people out there hurting. Obviously, especially in the UK, finances are just frightening for people. And my heart goes out to people, especially with the young families, because the pressure is on, isn't it? I was looking, I had to go into town tonight and today, and Christmas shopping has started. And I was just looking at all the goods that are all piled up. You know how the shops do it. It's always close to the door, so it's the first thing you see when you go in there. It's all those little tricks, you know, that they do every year. And the amount of stuff that you just know that in a couple of months' time, it's going to end up either in the kitchen cupboard, if it's a food item, or in the bathroom cupboard, or on Facebook Marketplace. Really sort of like irrelevant stuff. And it really struck me how much distraction that we have in this world. We're always being distracted by having a bigger and better car, bigger and better house, bigger and better holidays, the latest. I bought a reconditioned phone for the grand sum of £100, and it does exactly what I need, and that's fine. And I was talking to somebody, and they went, "Oh no, you want the new?" I have no idea, because I'm just a complete Luddite with the phone. I can just turn that on and work it, and that's fine. You need the latest so-and-so because you can do X, Y, Z with it. And I did look out of interest, and it was like £800. And I'm thinking, well, if I had £800, I'm sorry, I'll be flat on my back on the beach in the Canaries. Not walking around with it stuck in my pocket. So we just get very distracted, don't we? Very interesting little news snippet that came out that with the talk of like digital IDs coming in, and I know that's a very divisive thing. The pros, cons for it, and it seems like the overwhelming majority, myself included, is why. Why do we need this? Anyway, we move on from that. Where was I? Why did I go down that road? That'll teach me. Yeah, we have all this distraction in our world. Oh yes, that's right. Talking about, all the latest phones and all that, as a bit of a kickback against the amount of concern that we have now about how much our data is being shared. I have noticed it with this phone since I've had it, that I've searched for something on my laptop, and then I go into one of the social media sites on my phone, and there are all the adverts for everything I've just looked for on my laptop. And I'm like, okay. So there is this kickback now that people are going back to literally like the old Nokias, where the phone was that. It was a phone and a bit of a camera, and that was it. It didn't do anything else. I thought that was wonderful, actually. They say we can't go back, but I think at times we can. So, Cat Goddess, that's a good name. We like that. Just saying there. Yeah, gotta love the holidays. I do love whenever there's an almost magical vibe to holiday. There is. The lead up can not be very magical. If you wanted hell on earth today, you should have been in Poole in the shopping centre there, where they're promoting the local pantomime, and the ticket price. My neighbours, they got their grandkids down, so it's granddad, mum, dad, 3 kids. And it's like £200 to go to the pantomime. I was like, oh my God. I nearly went back, called her and said, quick, take the kids down there now. At least they can see the characters and tell them that was the pantomime. So, yeah, it's just this. It's looking at what we actually need. Now, I know, especially it just seems this year, that we've all lost people close to us. That's quite a sweeping statement, but it does seem to be true. We do seem to be surrounded now by more and more passings back to spirit. And when we start thinking about the things that we need, when we have losses, all right, in spiritualism, we know we go on. We know that evidence is there. We know that communication is there. I know when I close my eyes for the last time here, I will open them up somewhere else. I have asked and put my mind to it that I want to be at the Queen concert at Nebworth in about 1976, I think it was, because that was just a brilliant day. And then I'll know I've arrived. But even with this knowledge, it never stops the absence of the people. I mean, I didn't lose. We use, I'm very funny about terminology of late and the words that we use. And I keep correcting myself. I sound like I'm stuttering all the time, but it's not. I say something and my mind's going, yeah, maybe not. My parents both went back to spirit within a very short time of each other. And I would give my eye teeth for them to be sat here now and just have a chat. But then this leads me back to what I was started to talk about originally, having a talk with them. You know, not just endless memories. We know we need the messages. We know we need the evidence to support the fact that they're there. I had an interesting message the other week when I was working, and this young man stepped forward, and I knew where I was going. I was giving the link, so I'd given a certain amount of evidence, which was good. It wasn't generic. It was good. And I said, "Do you recognise this person?" And they went, "Oh, what's his name?" And I said, "Well, why?" I said, "Do you recognise him from the evidence?" "Yes." I said, "So why are you getting so stressed about the name? You know, because if I give you the name, the next thing you're going to want the national insurance number, and we can start losing the whole effect because this guy just wants to be here and talk and share things." And that's it, isn't it? It's about sharing thoughts, and we don't seem too much focused on that. It seems like a lot of our effort is being put into the evidence. And then when we actually get to the communication, the true communication, when they actually want to talk with us, it almost seems sometimes it's a bit formulaic, you know, or can be a bit general. As I said, you know, if I know my mum and dad were sat here, the conversations about the world today, I know my dad, he was ex-army, a very proud soldier, and very proud of both of them. I'll say that just in case I sat there. I know he would have very definite thoughts. My mum was South London, very outspoken, and she would most certainly have things to say. So why is this missing? Why is this conversational mediumship? Why does that not happen sometimes? It's just an interesting thought because, again, I'm looking at the general overview of spiritualism. Now, we go back to the world of today, and the world of today is very difficult. The world of today, finances are either not there or people are being very cautious about spending money. The first things that always get hit in times like this, which is to me a recession because the money is not available, are things like, I know through talking with quite a few practitioners I know in various healing modalities, working mediums with readings and things, and the story is exactly the same from all of them. It's the people are not spending money, people are not coming out, people are not seeking this. Conversely, which is very interesting, some churches, and I'm very pleased to say Paul is one of them, are picking up because people are actually being challenged. Now, we did see this in COVID in 2020, that eerie time when the lockdown started. I always remember looking out the window here, and we've got a big car park behind us. And the only time you ever see that car park empty used to be on Christmas Day. In recent years, there's cars there because various things happen. They've started a bus service, etc. But there wasn't a car out there. And that really brought it home to me. I was like, ooh, this is weird. But during that weird time, there was this, people were looking for something, which is perfectly natural. I mean, the advent of spiritualism really picking up a gear and really going out there online, that really kicked in. Not just in the UK, but around the world. We suddenly had access to people everywhere. I did a service once just to see if it could be done, and it could. And I had speakers. One was from Greenland, one was from Edinburgh, one was from local to here, one was from Menorca, and one was from Australia, all at the same time. It was great. But it was just something, because it was so new, you wanted to play with it and try things. But I'm moving away from the point here because people are looking for things. People are questioning. And one of the areas that has the potential to be able to meet this demand is our beautiful spiritualism, but not in the way that it's being practiced in the main at the moment. I mean, when you look at the average congregation in a church, most people have been there for quite a while, because it's always a thing, isn't it? When we have new people come in, it's very noticeable because they're new. But then we sort of like really don't think about, well, actually 80% of the congregation have been coming for some time. Maybe not week on week, but that's fine. Always say, you have a life, you lead it, it's not a problem. We're always here. So these people that understand, maybe not the in-depth, we can always learn more, but these people that understand and are familiar with the evidential mediumship part of our service, I get this general impression now that it's not enough. It's not meeting the demand. It's not meeting the need, because people they just want honesty. They want open conversation. They want honest debate. And again, we as practitioners, we have got the access to that information, but we're not using it because, again, we are focused primarily on the mediumship part. What was it I was introduced once? I took a service, did the philosophy, and I was very happy with it. And then it was totally deflated by the chairperson, said, right, now the bit you've all been waiting for. And I'm just like, really? And this is ages ago. I ask, and I mean, we've got some wonderful people out there tonight watching and listening. I ask, is spiritualism meeting the needs of today? Are we effective in today's world in what we do? Because again, I do see a lot of churches, a lot of centres are really struggling for attendance. Gone down and down and down. Again, I would ask this question. It's always very difficult because when we start talking about this, number one, the thing is, it is not to cause offence, because anybody that gives up their time to do whatever function in a church, we couldn't operate without you. We understand that. But sometimes we don't have enough knowledge to be a more effective church. We haven't got the experience to be a more effective church. I do see this, and again, this is not to cause offence. If you take offence at what I say, absolutely fine, you can do that, that's not a problem. A lot of the time, churches become in this safe mode. It's not just churches, it's centres as well, and it doesn't matter if they're part of an organisation or an independent, it doesn't matter, because it's endemic across the board. And everything is done in just such a way because that's really safe. We know that. It's tried, it's tested. I know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't mend it. But then it becomes doing everything by rote. And there isn't the movement there. And we are, the name for spiritualism is a spiritualist movement. There's a bit of a clue there in the title. So it's very, very hard. It's very hard. I was in a conversation just recently, and somebody brought up a very, very relevant point in an area. And it's funny, spiritualist churches, a bit like mold, they grow in patches all together. That's a terrible thing to say, but you see this. In this area, we've got 5 churches close together. In another area where I was, there's about 6 churches all close together. Another area down that way, there's 3 churches all close together. And it's just doing things safely and then not progressing. And that's it. The really relevant point somebody brought up, they said, is because, again, this is governed by finances. Because the finances are difficult at the moment, is having a variety of demonstrators. And I've seen this, I've noticed this myself in some of the posts, that you could literally take 1 week's schedule from one church and put it in the next week's schedule at the other church, and then moves around like that. So you end up with this very small contingency of demonstrators who are, they're doing their best. They're doing their best. But again, it's all the focus is on, I keep seeing these posts, and again, I'm not being nasty, but I see these posts and it's very formulaic how they're put. Beautiful evening, thank you so much, laughter and tears. And I just think, really? Really? Once in a while, yeah, I get that. But not every week. Sorry, not every week. We have the ability here to be a movement of change. We were a movement of change. We had a gentleman who was an MP who became a spiritualist after going into spiritualism to prove it was rubbish, which is really funny. So many people came in that way. I find that hilarious. But he then, because of his personal development as a spiritualist and the understanding of the sacredness of all life and the brotherhood of man and various aspects, he introduced and pushed through Parliament various reforms to do with child labour and child health, and different aspects of that, because through the work, the demonstrations, the evidence, and his own work within spiritualism and with spirit, inspired him enough and changed that guy's outlook on life of not thinking about kids that were forced up chimneys or into working mills and things like that, to look at it in through a different lens and go, actually, do you know what? This is wrong. This just isn't right. So we've always had that ability there. But at the moment, we just seem to be a little bit stuck. We seem to be not too progressive. What's your thoughts on that? There's people out there listening. Just stick your thoughts in the box. And I'm not looking for you to agree with me or be, a bit what's it. If you've gotten a different view, absolutely fine. Debate is great. Diatribe is not so good. Anyway, cat goddess. True, it's like as long as we are on this earth and maybe even beyond, there's always going to be something or another we can learn, or even from each other sometimes, or however else do we learn things. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things within spiritualism I'll bring it into the teaching aspect, which I thoroughly enjoy, is when I'm working with any of the students here, one of the things I'm always banging on about is awareness and putting the awareness out there and becoming more aware, because we do tend to walk around, a little bit insular. And again, this links back to, all the latest gadgets, because my feelings on that is that we've got so much choice of so many useless things. All these things out there, they're just stuff, aren't they? They're just stuff. But we're always looking for something to plug what we think is a void in our life. We have that coffee machine. Oh, that would be wonderful. And again, after 6 months, it's like you're back on the instant again, because you want a coffee now, not wait 24 hours, play the barista. In spiritualism, in our teachings, in what we can bring forward and what we can share with people, is this deeper understanding of ourselves and that awareness goes out to others. I know when I talk about things that's happened here, it's not me being, showing off and, oh yeah, we're wonderful. But it's personal experience, so I can comment on it. I know with some of the people who've been through the development program here, the changes in them has been beautiful to see. Absolutely beautiful. One person wouldn't say boo to a goose when they first came in. Even in the practice sessions, which is a closed session, sitting regularly together so you get to know each other. Even in those sessions, this person, the thought of standing up and talking in front of their peers was like, no, not going to work. Well, they now help out on the chairing of the service. And they're in the talk, in the conversation, they say about, the change that has come in with them and with their work life and with their home life. There was a bit of a rift in the family, but that got back on track because this newfound sense of awareness permeated every level of their life. And that's just one case. That's just one case. I know this has happened on many an occasion, and it's beautiful to see. So it's there. It's there. So why is that not happening? Why are we not energized? We should be fighting people off with a stick on the doors to come in, to be a part. I mean, we break the service down, the evidential side. I mean, that is a miracle. I don't care what people say. That is a true miracle. Somebody who has died, somebody who is no longer here in the physical, is able to present their presence through the works of the medium. I mean, wow. Wow. Oh, sorry. She thought I was playing with her. So we have that. But again, then we have the philosophy, and the philosophy should have people going out, going, that was really good. I found that invigorating. I found that fascinating. I want to know more. I want to bring more of that into my life. I want to understand that more. It's like we've got all the ingredients, but there's just something wrong with the recipe at the moment. I don't know what it is. So crazy cat goddess. Right, it's crazy how that happens sometimes, how people can be so skeptical and not believe in certain things, then life sometimes has a way of opening people's eyes to possibilities of other things. Yeah, very true. And one thing which is very common with all of us spiritualists is we're always trying to convert everybody into being a spiritualist. And that's really not the way. It's just finding out. Spiritualism, spirituality, they are two very intertwined things, though at times, and especially over the last few years, we need to be a little bit mindful. I had rather a heated discussion with somebody who they're part of this movement about, we're changing our vibration. Well, we change our vibration every time we wake up. It's a new day. We're a new person. There's your vibrational shifts. But we're all changing our vibration, and all the secrets are coming out. And it was the gleeful tone which actually triggered me a little bit. So I was probably a little bit harder than I should have been, but oh well. And it was this essence about all the institutions are going to fall, all the governments are going to fall. And I said, and then what? Well, then we see the truth. I went, no. What about the practicalities? If you had no government tomorrow, which in the UK we actually fervently wish at the moment because it's not right, it's very easy to take stuff away. But what's intelligent is to replace stuff. Some of these scenarios that people are talking about, when you actually think about it, when you actually consider what's being said, it is quite the apocalypse they're talking about. But there's this fixed, fervent glee in their voice, and this is the issue with some areas of spirituality and spiritualism. There are some spiritualists, if you follow me and do what I say, you'll be all right. That's a cult. Sorry, that really is a cult. At the best, it's Orthodox religion. At the worst, it's a cult. But spirituality does have pitfalls. Spiritualism has pitfalls. And it's negotiating our way around it. But it's being able to talk, being able to be part of the community, and being able to create your own community within our churches, our centres, not just the community within the church, the community in which we reside. So, cat goddess. Right, I think there should be a balance of spirituality and practicality sometimes. Yeah. As I say, and again, it's people probably with the best intentions, probably very well-meaning, but actually just picking up a scrap of knowledge and running with it and not giving it thought. Well, one of the things, again, within spiritualism is we have the philosophical mediums. Now, when you have a skilled practitioner delivering a cracking philosophical address on the subject, there's probably going to be 5 or 6 different things within there that you'll take away and think, wow, that's really interesting. I want to think on that. I will build that thinking I will consider that thinking. I will maybe apply it to the way that I think going on from here. So we have that ability there. But again, we become a little bit transfixed on the phenomena of spiritualism, which is the evidential mediumship, which can be trance mediumship or working in the altered state, which is my preferred term now because the word trance sums up something, and altered states brings in a lot more flexibility there. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do? In answer to the comment about this area, and from this comment, it was very obvious that they're seeing the same demonstrators time and time and time again. And they're not holding them. They're not grabbing their attention. And you do see it within the movement. You put a new medium on, everyone, oh, a new medium, go and see that. And they go and see him 2 or 3 times, and that's great. And then it becomes, oh, it's them again. Yeah, no, I'll give that a miss this week. You know, we tire of them. Because, is it because we're only playing like a 1-horse race? Is it because we are only relying totally on the evidential mediumship? Now, obviously, if you get a practitioner and they are phenomenal in their evidential, that will hold people. That will bring people back time and time again because of the level and the depth, but all mediums are different. But it does actually, what's not being said there, that all the thinking about going to see mediums is based on the quality of their evidential mediumship. It's not very often you hear people say, oh, we're going to see so-and-so, his philosophy is brilliant. I say it about mediums, as mediums here, that I just love their philosophy and have been very, very blessed with some of the visiting mediums. I don't want to name any because I can't name them all because there's so many. But I know with a lot of our visiting mediums, you know, the philosophy has just been wow. And I've gone back and rewatched it to pick up on bits. So how do we up that standard? How do we? Well, I think first of all, we've got to admit there's a problem. And we're not, because we're quite content with doing the same thing because it's nice and safe. That's interesting. Julie, lovely Julie. We haven't met, have we? I'd love to meet you one day, darling. I'm going to come in your flower shop and surprise you. Agree with you. I feel there is a cult-like things going on. There seems like they're to be given a higher knowledge, and as we all know, nobody knows more than me. Very true. How true, Julie? If they'd only met you, they would understand that. Yeah. It's there was a fascinating article. There's a website run by somebody in Australia, and there's some really good stuff on there. There's a bit contentious stuff, and I think sometimes it can be a little bit too one-sided. So I'm wary. But there was a fascinating article there about the ascension things that are going on and the different dimensions. The funny noise is the cat licking the settee, because she does that, because she loves the settee. And this person had done like a really good history of that sort of energy. And it went back to 1946, I think it was, in America. And what was being said then is actually what some of these people are saying today. Is just maybe livened up into today's language, but it's exactly the same. You know, if you follow me, you'll be saved. Who is it? Is it the Jehovah's Witnesses? And again, I'm not attacking anybody. We're all entitled to our own beliefs. That's fine. You know, so a lot of these new age philosophies and revelations that are coming in, a lot of them are actually based on very orthodox religion. You know, if you follow me, you'll be saved. We have 10,000 spaceships standing off planet Earth. One very brave gentleman in the States forecasted the end of the world, and all his followers met at his ranch, and then they all woke up the next day and nothing had happened. So it was a bit embarrassing, isn't it? I wonder if they got their money back. I doubt it. Anyway. Yes. But in spiritualism, I am constantly amazed and intrigued by the thoughts of the spirit world when they come in. I love it when I'm working and I can get into that flow and I'm talking away and something will be said and my little tiny brain is going, oh, that's interesting. I love those little moments. I think that's great because, it's not me. Even now, here talking, I know there's a bit of an influence going on and it's very welcome, very welcome. But as I say, times are hard. We've got a hard world and we've got hard choices to make. We've got hard decisions to make. And spiritualism isn't exempt from that. Neither is any of the major religions. I'm sure I know the major religions are suffering. I was brought up in the era of every town had a church or at least one church, probably 3 or 4. Each church would have its own vicar or priest who lived on site. And now we're in the age of one vicar or priest will serve 3 or 4 churches in the area. So, that shows that the Orthodox religions are suffering. All right, you can say, well, they've got a load of money stashed away. Good luck to them. I wish we did. So, yeah, we're not exempt. Big girl, beautiful. We're not exempt from the toughness in the world. But we've got to rise and meet the challenge. Because if we don't, we risk, again, becoming ineffective and not having a voice. And we really should have a voice. We should have a very strong voice. We should be centres of excellence. We should be invoking the spirit in people. People should be leaving our churches and our centres infused. They should be going out and going, wow, this is really interesting. Just go over to the comments here. Christian, good evening, sir. Nice of you to join us. Lovely, wee Stevie Trolland. You're not long on. Oh, that's good because I was talking about you earlier and it was really not good. Joking. And I'm looking forward to working with you too, Stevie. That'll be wonderful. It's making, not making, because that was interesting what I said. It's like having all the ingredients, but not the recipe. We seem to have lost the recipe. We've got everything. We've got it all at our fingertips. It's all there. We have the ability to talk to dead people, bring it down to really basic stuff. We have that ability. It's tried and tested and proven. All right, in today's world, that is being manipulated. That is being downgraded, debased by some people, but only by some people. It is very easy to go into the gloom and doom energy. I see this time and time again on talks. Everything suddenly becomes very negative. There is stuff going on out there that's wrong. There is stuff that's being done for money, for internet fame, things like that. Yeah, it does go on. What do? Do we sit there moaning about it? Or do we say, right, well, I'm going to be the best emissary that I can? I believe I know that we have a vital part of this world. And it's bringing that vitality back into churches, back into our centres, back to our own minds. Stansted Farm down in lovely New Zealand. Good morning to you. Hi, Lawrence. You're doing great over there, but you won't see the masses walk through your doors. What you need is to take the results of spiritualist philosophy out to the community. Yeah, I'm fully with you on that. We'll go into that. By translating it into people's lives, understanding we are not our thoughts, purpose, acceptance, taking time in nature to know ourselves, relating to those who disappoint us by sending them love. Professor Cox has done it with quantum mechanics. Spiritualism can do it through public policy, social media, and it's going to be well-crafted something. Let me know what that something is. I agree with you totally, Stansted Farm. Funny enough, this came up in a conversation again just recently, and I do have this little bee in my bonnet at times when I hear this phrase about we've got to get the youngsters in. Well, this has been the battle cry of spiritualism since I was a youngster. And I know that's only a few years ago. But it's that energy as well. And this is what I said, I keep hesitating when I talk because I'm looking at the words that I'm using. I'm being very conscious and very in the moment more when I talk, because it's amazing how much we tell ourselves just in normal speak, and it slips us by. It slips us by. So I'm being very wary. But this phrase of we've got to get more people into the churches. Well, number one, that's brought a division in straight away. You know, we here in the church have got to get them out there in through our doors. I understand that. That is a logical statement. But the actual energy of it is come to me. You know, people out there, you have to come to me. And I agree with you, Stansted Farm. You know, don't sit there on your throne saying, come to me. Get off your arse and go out. You know, we have... Every town has got, like, I don't know, Starbucks, Cafe Nero, whatever. I don't do those places. I can't stand around for half an hour while somebody juggles bloody vanilla juice or something. Sorry, I'm really not into them. But we've got places like that, you know, and we can say, and they're quite happy because they provide community access. A lot of them, especially the independent coffee shops. And you can say, right, you know, we'll be there on a Thursday night and advertise it. Between 7 and 9, we'll be at, what have we got down here, the independent one? Coffee Number 1, I think that one is. And they've got this community area that you can use. And we'll be talking about spiritualism and just see where people turn up. And I think that's a wonderful idea. That's just one avenue. Stop doing that. That's just one avenue of taking it out there. We did approach the local uni to have representation at the Freshers Week. Although I don't agree with the decision, I understand it, and they did manage it fairly because there were to be no religions represented there. And I thought, okay, that's across the board. All right, I don't agree with it. Because you're bringing a lot of young people out for the first time. I know the building inspector for one of the local student blocks, and some of the tales you hear, you think, oh my God. But one interesting little thing that he said once, he said, in the Freshers Week and the weeks following, you probably have about 15 to 20 to 25 students go back home because suddenly they're out on their own and they can't handle it. I just thought, my God, that must be so heartbreaking. All that work to go to uni, and then, you know, you failed because you feel alone. Well, you know, I'm sorry, but religion, doesn't matter if it's spiritualism, Catholicism, Baptist, doesn't matter. Any religion can be there to try and fill that hole for people. But we've got to be there. So, yeah, I totally agree with it. Oh, thank you. We've got the rest of it. Well-crafted presentations that grab universal interest. We need to become translators and build the terminology and channels to do this. Really true. Really true. Again, because this is a business model as well. That in training, I used to be a trainer in one of my previous incarnations on this world. And you have these stages. You have unconsciously incompetent. So you're doing stuff wrong and you don't know you're doing it wrong, but you're just doing it. Then you have consciously incompetent, where you're doing stuff and it doesn't feel right, but you don't know how to put it right. Then you have consciously competent, which is where you're functioning and doing stuff. You know what you're doing, you get on with it. Then you have the last stage, which is the worst stage. And this is, I think, we could apply sometimes to our churches and centres of unconsciously competent, where we're just doing stuff and we're not actually thinking about it anymore. It's not an engagement of brain to hands, it's just hands doing things. And I think that we can do that unconsciously, and especially when we have people coming in looking for things, that we may sometimes talk to them on our level, forgetting that a lot of these people have no idea what we're doing, no idea what we're about, no basic understanding whatsoever, which is great because none of us did. When we all had this time, we all walked into a spiritualist church or centre or wherever for the first time with no idea whatsoever. And, these are the times, because I love that word translate. These are the times when we've got to bring that proper language in. It was 2020 that I started banging on about evidential mediumship. And at the time, I remember a lot of people were ribbing me about it because I was saying evidential mediumship, philosophical mediumship, because I was very aware that the terminology of just mediumship wasn't enough. But all those people that were ribbing me about it, I do smile now because I see quite a few adverts and posts saying an evening of evidential mediumship. And I'm just like, that's interesting. Christian, the Younger, etc. This is, I think, due to mediumship not being on mainstream television. For example, in America, there is much, hence the largest age band range. Sorry, I'm just switching over to the screen here. In America, there is much, hence the largest age band range in the US that follows mediumship is 35-45. Brilliant. In the UK, it's 60. Yeah, really true. What's missing in the UK is the days of Akora, Fry, etc. This could be Monday's post. This gentleman, everybody, whether you're watching now or later, is well worth following because he has a marvelous social media presence, and he has his blog, and I've shared quite a few of his blogs because I love his approach. He's very straight talking, and I love it, and it's very sensible. And one day we may be here together, so that would be wonderful. That's really true. It's interesting with the age gap we were talking here. And again, in a presentation I was doing recently, and people said about, bringing modern music in. And I said, so what's your idea of modern music? And they said, we have angels and spirit in the sky. Well, people that know me will know Spirit in the Sky is now my least favourite track, because the number of places I've been to and they're going, right, we're having our music today and it's Spirit in the Sky. And one day I'm just going to jump off the platform. I'm going to feign a faint. Anyway, and I said, well, when we talk about modern music, do you realise that people that would know Insomnia by Faithless are probably in their 50s now? Because that came out 30 years ago. So benefit of the doubt, they were 20 in their clubbing years. So when we talk about modern music, we're still not quite got it. The idea is there. I get you. The idea is there, but not the application of it. I don't think I could get away with Insomnia halfway through a divine service. I'd enjoy it, and I know there's several of the congregation that probably really enjoy it, but I know there's quite a few people might think differently, so we'll leave that one for now. But thank you, Christian. That is a really interesting fact, and that's something I want to go away. Another thing with the American market is the application of spiritualism is very different to the UK application. I know I've got a wonderful friend, Elaine Bevan, who is a reverend from a metaphysical church out there, and she's often out there touring people that we talk to online. And there seems to be a much higher ratio of church. Oh, I had a lady on the other week. Much higher ratio of independent places, a lot of which are owned and run by the minister. So they are much more of a business acumen. So you do have that professional air coming in. In the UK, I mean, I know I keep going on about this, but our structure of governance has been in place for over 120 years now, and it is well past time that it is seriously looked at. And, and I mean seriously, not emotionally, but seriously looked at, and seriously look at other ways of operating. Because the whole system, when it was set up, the world was a very, very different place. I believe when it was originally set up, the criteria used to be for 12 committee members. Well, nowadays, churches are struggling to get 2 or 3 committee members because the world's changed. 120 years ago, and this is a fact, this isn't, an attack or anything on anybody or anything, the world's money was very different. The old man used to go out to work, which was enough money to pay the mortgage on the house and buy the food in, and a day out of the seaside every now and then. So the missus was at home all the time, the homemaker, which is brilliant, absolutely wonderful, being wonderful mothers. But you had this vast reserve of people who were fairly well educated and had time to do things. So, yeah, it worked really well then. Today's world, I mean, a totally different story. Mum and dad are out working all hours, struggling to get by, and time is precious. We can be cash rich and time poor, and that does seem to be part of today's world. So, the thought of trying to get 12 committee members for church is just, God, no. I mean, people are struggling. I know some places they've got 2 or 3 and various vacancies that have been there since the year dot now. But we're tied to that system. And again, anybody who volunteers, gives up their time to help run a church, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But when we compare the US market to the UK market, I'm going to cough, excuse me. There is that difference of application in as much as it's coming from a business sense and a business orientation, rather than a conglomerate committee. So thank you, Christian. That was very interesting. You're going to start me off now. I'm going to be looking at stuff later tonight. Thank you. Leslie, has what was it? Dancing with the Star, whatever it is. Is that finished now? Leslie is saying, evening, Lawry. I think all mediums, as having personal responsibility, should be educated in all aspects of spiritualism and never stop educating themselves and evolving to bring spiritualism to everyone. It also requires commitment and dedication. That said, many people don't know what spiritualism is. We need to reach out and promote it more in general. Easier said, I know. Yeah. Interesting point there about the education, because something being tied to social media because of the church and my own personal page, I like put a little bit of humor out there and things. It seems our education system is very heavily biased on becoming a better medium. You know, how to build the story, how to strengthen your links, how to get that deeper evidence, how to do that, and there is very, very little on. You know, Leslie, you are very experienced over the years. How much in the training is biased towards the medium's personal development rather than the medium's faculty of mediumship development? Because I think that's an area that we may need to revisit and look at. You know, the understanding is all right. It's all well and good, you know, getting people to keep producing this evidence, but what does that mean? What is that on a personal level? You know, because whenever we involve ourselves with our communicators, we are in that presence. We are in that feeling. That should really have an effect on us. That really should be something we take away and think about. And also, you know, what has come through? What was the level of communication? What was it saying? Is that applicable to me? You know, can I understand? Can I relate to that? There's an awful lot there. And I think our educational system, because one thing I do see an awful lot of is spiritual bypassing with people. Just brushing stuff off willy-nilly, you know. Oh, it's meant to be. Oh, they're in a better place. And things like that. And that's awful thing. Do excuse me. Oh, you've not watched it yet. Well, I'm honoured that you chose me over Come Dancing. That's the word I'm looking for. So anyway, back to where we started off from. Getting ourselves relevant, getting ourselves of today's world. That's the big question. The avenues that can lead off from that. And again, I'm going to give examples from here at Poole because we're doing it and I can talk about it. Tomorrow, for example, thank you, Leslie, because you gave me a few tips on this as well, so that's much appreciated. We're doing a photo service where people are bringing in photos of loved ones in an envelope, and that will start the reading. Just simply, I call them the revival services. So we've done flower sentience, we've done holding the object. Do you know what? That name always eludes me. Psychometry, every time. Now we're going to do the photo because it's something new and it's starting to show people. The engagement is really great from the congregation because it's different. But not only is it different, it engages people on another level, and it also demonstrates the potential that we have within the movement, rather than the endless cycle. Oh, thank you, Lawrence. That was a lovely service. Next week we've got a really good medium, so and so and so and so. And you know, I do see a lot of places we're locked in that cycle, so you can understand the engagement factor is going to go down. But we need to be very mindful that as this world continues turning and as the challenges out there get more and more personal, financial, relationship challenges are just coming up more and more and more and more, people are looking for answers. And I'm so sorry to say, in the main, they're not going to find it in a lot of our places. They may find the initial, distraction of the phenomena of a message, but that soon wanes. But we're not offering anything else. That's the area. That's the area. We shouldn't be frightened of change. We shouldn't be frightened of trying things. I love trying things. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, okay. I don't know. The jury's out until I've done it. Simple as that. Cat Goddess, yeah, I agree. Spirituality should sometimes be a tool to heal, not just to write off or brush things aside. In my opinion, not just all about toxic positivity. Agreed, yeah. Talk about spiritual bypassing. We do get a lot of that. But again, that's just when you hear that from people, it shows and demonstrates there a lack of understanding and a lack of engagement and a lack of realization of the greater picture of spiritualism. So whose fault is that? Why have they not got this? Is it because they didn't want to learn, or is it because it wasn't available? Yeah, tough questions. I'm so sorry. It's been really good all day. Leslie Thomas, it's serving spirit with intent from the soul, nothing on a personal level. We're all spirit and it's all there for all of us. Yeah, this is true. So, okay, in this way, you're reinforcing what I said earlier about, there is so much there from the spirit world. So why aren't we looking for it? Why are we not trying to get into that deeper level? And I don't mean, popping off into different states of altered awareness, although that is a very useful tool. But the mind leads. And is the mind just focusing on evidence, and a quick tie-up, a quick message? Oh, I'm very proud of you and I love you very much, and that seems to be the context of a message. Well, I'm sorry, I know my mum and dad would, God, some poor bugger got me mum, they'd be there for hours. Stevie! Speaking about music and the younger ones, sorry for my dyslexia. Stephen, never apologise. It's not a problem, all right? But I hope it makes sense. I think we should look at the music being a part of a service, for example, but also the strength in the energy. There are many people there from an older generation who love the music that is playing. Then that happiness, togetherness creates a oneness in the energy, and then a stability for the demonstration, etc. However, the majority of the people there are younger ones not liking that music, and it's the trouble with this site, because we don't get the end and faux. Steve, it's clipped off the end of the message. If you could just pop that in there, that'd be lovely. Agree with you totally. The music is that vibration that carries that harmony and brings in that harmony. But it's also a very good chance to unify the thought within the room and unify the attention within the room. So yeah, music is a very important part, and it's going to be a little bit like the reincarnation story that you could talk about it all night and never really get anywhere. But yeah, our choice of music, what we do, that is a big factor. But also, here's something, and this came up last week, and we've had some developments, and it's very interesting. Again, I talk about the structure of our governance, which is 120 years old, which needs reviewing. It needs a review. What about the structure of our services? Why do we look at that, the order of things? And again, talking from Paul Church's point of view, you know that we do different types of services. We will have the Lyceum service, so instead of the philosophy, a little bit the history, just to show that we're not, a one-trick pony. That's to give people an idea of the depth of understanding that's behind us. We've had our talking heads. That's really interesting. You've got to get the right mediums who are energetically compatible, but just two mediums up there in conversation. And that's fascinating what comes out of that, even with the evidence as well, because there was one with Elaine Bevan, and a statement was asked by somebody, and the answer came back, and it just led straight into this communication with the father. It was wonderful. It was absolutely beautiful to see. It was so spontaneous. So yeah, I agree with. You put the comment in. Thank you. Oh, there we go. And forced to sing hymns, then that strength oneness won't be generated. Then the stability and oneness will be affected. If it was all younger ones listen to their generation music, then it would just like the older generation listen to theirs and create that oneness strength. I think the big question is, how do we keep both the older and younger generations happy? Yeah, when you have the answer, would you mind sending it to me in a message? That'd be wonderful. I believe much can also come down to terminology and how it's presented to the younger ones and the environment. Yeah, very, very true. We've always got to bring those balances in. We've got one of those, what are they called? Alpha course run by the C of E. And there's a big old church in town, and they had the banners out, and I must admit, I saw the banners and just didn't really progress it from seeing the banners until one day I went past there and I noticed the car park for the church was rammed. And I thought, that's interesting. And then when I came back past it, they were turning out, and it was all families. So I went along to a couple of their services to find out, to see what they're doing. Very different from Orthodox Church. Very, very casual, very informal. They had live music, which is great. And again, that's whatever you do, somebody's not going to like it. So you're never going to hit that sweet spot of universal acceptance. But what you got to do is hit that sweet spot of the direction you want your central church to go into. But they had live music in there, and they had kids in there. And you know what? I love kids in Paul Church. Because I always think, you know what? If you say no kids, you're turning the parents away. People don't think about that. No, we don't have children in. Yeah, well, that means you just lost one or two parents because you're not having the kids in. And yes, I understand there's got to be a modicum there of not turning into a creche or a noisy environment. I understand that. But we have got a very good supply of colouring books, several of which I've had to go at myself. We got little chairs and little table, and also, set towards about if they get a little bit, uppity, just slip out the back. That's fine. Absolutely fine. And love it. Christmas Eve, we do our Christmas Eve service. And one of the reasons I really love our Christmas Eve service is because we get loads of kids in, and it's great. It's really good. So going back to these alpha courses, they certainly brought in a very different way. And I can bet you bottom dollar, you know, when they started doing it, thank you, Christian. Have a good evening, sir. You can bet your bottom dollar when they first started doing it, they would have met a lot of resistance from the previous congregation. And it's how we manage that. And again, this sort of like highlights part of the earlier conversation of, you know, sometimes a church or a centre will be run in one way because it's quite safe, and any form of criticism or anything is negated because we don't do anything to change anything. Do you understand what I'm saying there? Leslie, we at Salisbury have many different types of music. For example, I can see clearly now the rain has gone. Imagine, Silence, they love that one. And I could go on. It's uplifting all to see. Although every time before I serve with evidential mediumship, I have opened my eye. Yeah, that's a good old one. No, Open My Eyes is cracking. There's a firm called Reawaken Hymns, and I use them quite a lot in the services because they'll do the old hymns, but with a modern beat to it and tempo. And I did actually send them an email saying, would you please work on Open My Eyes, because anybody over a certain age here, that was always the circle hymn. God, I must have sung that a million times, I think, like you, Leslie. Anyway, hello, Craig. Nice for you to join us, mate. We're popping off shortly, buddy, but welcome. You can catch it again on Rewind. Thank you all for dropping in tonight. That's wonderful. Next week, we may or may not have a Lyceum. We may have a Lyceum with Mark Stone, or we may not have a Lyceum. We've got our Christmas market on. So it's going to be a very busy day, and obviously once it's all done, it's getting the church back ready. Mark's staying here because he'll be taking our service next Sunday. So fingers crossed we'll have a Lyceum with Mark. And then the week following, we have Frederick Hagland talking to us from Sweden. So anyway, just remember, you can catch up with us online. Our services are out on Facebook and YouTube every Sunday at 11 a.m. GMT. Tomorrow I am taking the service, and it's a photo service, one of our revival services. So it's just looking at stuff we used to do. So yeah, join in. You can either watch it live or get it on catch up later on. I was talking about Christian, who was in the room earlier. Lovely gentleman. Just something about that man. I love what he's putting out. I do. I really like it. We've got the lovely Stephen Trolland in the room. Again, if you're not familiar with Stephen's work, please just do a search. He's got some fantastic things available. There's some free stuff and there's some pay-per-view stuff, but well worth looking out for. It's called Soulfully Embraced. So yeah, just have a little looky at Stephen's work, because he's a wonderful gentleman. We have worked together. He's been here a few times, which is absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure he will be doing a return visit at some time. But in the meantime, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to go back to little kitty cuddling here. Oh, thank you, Steve. There you go. He's just put his little link in the comments there. More than welcome, sir. Yeah, just have a lovely evening, and thank you for being part of tonight. Have a wonderful time. Good night, everybody.